All right, we good?
Yep.
Sweet. All right. And again, like y'all are on my far monitor. I can see you wave or something or interrupt me. I don't mind. We're a small group, so it's totally cool. So welcome to Introduction to PDF Embed, also known as giving you really good control over working with PDFs on the web. By the way, I'm really bad at following the official Adobe rules. It continues to get pointed out to me when I don't use the proper name for things. I just get very excited about our stuff, and I may use my own terms for things. So I'm Raymond Camden. I am a developer evangelist for Adobe. I've been here about 14 or so months. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about today, you are absolutely welcome to reach out to me. I like getting questions. I like solving problems. That's why I got into DevRel in the first place. And so at my blog, there's a contact form if you want to reach out to me. You can also subscribe to see my cool cat-related blog posts. I am on Twitter, although trying hard to reduce the amount of time Twitter's open on my screen. But my DMs are open. So again, absolutely feel free to reach out if you want to talk about anything I'm talking about today, or web or cats or kids or anything at all like that. Trying to get rid. Are y'all seeing on the screen share this big giant zoom bar at the bottom?
No.
Perfect. And it's just me, and that's all right. All right. So let's talk about Adobe PDF Embed. So it is a JavaScript solution for viewing PDFs on the web. I know that we don't have a lot of technical people. We have some with some web knowledge, et cetera. It is not super complex JavaScript at all. For the most part, it's going to be relatively simple JavaScript. Sometimes things you could just copy and paste and not have to worry about it. Some of the more advanced things you will need to write some code, but for the most part, it should be relatively simple. And again, y'all can reach out to me anytime to ask questions about how this stuff works. What it's going to do is give you more control. So right now, web browsers have really good support actually for rendering a PDF. But typically what happens is that it is a full screen experience. So, you work on designing this beautiful website, you have your navigation and all that, you link to a PDF, and then the entire screen is that PDF. What the PDF embed is going to give you is control over where that PDF is rendered, how it's rendered, and so forth. We have different types of how you want to view the PDF. So things like one page at a time or a continuous scroll. You could even stretch the PDF out so every page is shown. Based on the content of your PDF, different types of viewing will make sense. And again, you have control over picking what that experience is. You also have hooks into the document. So if you want to know if a person has read a page. So for example, if you work at an organization where the lawyers say, you have to make someone read 2 pages of text, and nobody does that. What a lot of websites do is they make you scroll to the bottom, and as soon as you scroll to the bottom, yeah, sure, you read the legal stuff. You can do the same thing with PDF Embed, where if you have a 2-page legal document, you could see if they've read page 1 and 2. So again, when a browser by itself renders a PDF, you are totally out of the question. With PDF Embed, you can get some knowledge into how people are interacting with that document. And this is free. The team that I work on, we have multiple APIs. So if you need to automate things like merging PDFs, splitting PDFs, doing OCR on PDFs, if you have automation type things you need to do with documents, we have a lot of really cool APIs for that. That's all on the paid tier with a good free trial. But everything I'm talking about tonight is literally just a free JavaScript library. So as a demo, This is an example of the PDF on screen right now. I am using a web-based presentation framework called Reveal. So this is a full web page with a PDF embedded inside it. And you can see I could scroll in and I can select text. I can also use annotation tools. So if I really want to point out that this is just a beautiful cat, I could draw on it and I could leave a comment. And notice right away, it notices that the PDF has been edited and I have the option to save it. I could leave some comments. More cats, please. More. And so forth. So it's essentially, it's kind of or close to the same experience that you would have with Acrobat. I can also go in here and search. Is there cat litter in this document? Yes, there is 9 times. And then once I'm done, looking at the PDF, making my annotations, I could save this document and I have a copy of this PDF with my annotations. In fact, if I click it, it should open the default browser and you can see there's my annotations. But notice, again, the browser took everything away, whereas this is actually rendering it still within the context of my website. So how do we do this? So the first thing that you will need is you will need a key. This key essentially just validates who you are, and it allows us to get your email address and stuff like that. You will go to this website, it's the Adobe PDF API website. We'll click on here. You can see it's lovely marketing with a very nice and easy get credentials button there on top. Once you do that, you'll be brought to our developer console. It's mostly pretty easy. In fact, actually, I'm going to go back to this. When you click get credentials, it walks you through everything. And at the end, you have your key. So you are good to go. This developer console is only if you lose your key or you want to make a new key. It essentially allows you to kind of see what keys you have in use at some time. And if you do use our other Adobe APIs, this is where you would track usage there as well. But you will get a key. The important thing to know is that keys are host specific. So what that means, unfortunately, is if you are testing locally on your machine, typically you will use something called localhost. That's just your local domain, your local web server, and you're testing a document. Because keys are host specific, when you sign up and you say, and it asks you, hey, where are you going to be using this? If you're testing, you have to use localhost as your domain. When you want to go into production, so RaymondCamden.com, you have to make another key. Now, the keys are free, but you will have to kind of go back, get that copy, and ensure that when you move your work into your production environment, that you use the proper key. Now, the Embed API will give you a very clear error if the key is not valid. So it won't be anything obscure. Just kind of keep in mind that, again, your key will be specific to a host. And again, unfortunately, only one host per key. What I would love to see is have a key and I could say localhost and RaymondCamden.com. But for right now, you do have to have multiple keys. So once you have your key, and you will need an adobe.com email address if you already, not email address, an account with adobe.com. If you already have that, then it will just use that when you sign up for a key. Next thing you do is you load the library. And that is basically copying and pasting a script tag from our documentation. So you take that, drop it into your HTML. After you have that, this is the point where you begin to write some JavaScript. Now, again, luckily, you can literally copy and paste from our docs. So you don't have to worry about being a JavaScript developer. I have been using JavaScript since about 97 or so. I remember when it first came out, and I still screw up things all the time. But again, if you can copy and paste code from a website, you can get this running. What that code will look like And if you've never seen JavaScript before, this is basically saying that, I want to listen for a particular event. In this case, the event is our PDF loading and saying, hey, I'm ready to do cool PDF stuff. So this is the option that our docs show. And I'll say, like, all right, for the next 60 seconds, it's going to be slightly more advanced JavaScript. If you are using something like React or Vue.js or Alpine, and by the way, if you are new to web development and don't know a lot of JavaScript and want to learn a framework at some point, take a look at Alpine. Alpine is really, really simple. Vue.js is kind of simple as well. Maybe save React for a couple of years down the line. But all this particular code snippet is saying is that sometimes before my code even runs to listen for the event, it may have already happened and it's too late. What I can do is check for a variable, window.adobe.dc. And if that exists, that means I'm good to go. So all this code here is saying is, hey, if you've already loaded, let's go ahead and do something to start working with PDFs. Otherwise, I want you to listen for the event. And when that event fires, then I'm also ready to start, working with the PDF. After you've done that, you're going to initialize and load the PDF. And that sounds scary, but it's not too bad. You will have the key that you got when you signed up, and you can see, I don't have it on screen there, but that's where it would go. You will have a couple blocks of JavaScript. And the first one essentially creates a PDF viewer library, essentially. You pass your key, and then you pass the div on your web page where you want the PDF to render. So you design your web page. You have your header, your footer, your navigation, all that jazz. And you kind of know, like, hey, this is where I want to render PDFs. And I may use CSS to say, I want my div to be 500 pixels high, 500 pixels wide. I want it right aligned. It's just a vanilla div of some sort. In my JavaScript, all I'm doing is saying, hey, when you load this PDF, stuff it into this particular div that I have set up. And then the last thing I do is I run the preview file command, and that is what is going to load my PDF. On screen, I'm pointing to a URL. In this case, it's on my particular domain. It's in a subdirectory called PDFs /cat.pdf. And I have to pass a file name as well. In this case, it's called cat PDF. Now I'm saying the file name is cat.pdf. The URL does not have to be on the same domain, but you run into CORS issues if it's on a different domain. And if you need help with that, just see me later and I'll talk more about it. Typically, people at yourdomain.com, you're loading and working with PDFs at yourdomain.com. So as an example of that, this is a regular web page. And so this is when I get very fancy and making pretty web pages, this is what I do. I pick a kind of off-white color. I use Arial, or that could be Verdana. I don't know. Don't tell anybody at Adobe, but like this is the most that I can design. I apologize in advance, but this is regular HTML. I'm going to show you. I'll make that a little bit bigger. And let me just pull this over. Is that font size big enough?
Yeah.
The right thing. Excuse me. So you can see a regular HTML page. I do have a div where my PDF is going to be, and I did put some CSS on there. Very arbitrary. You could spend a lot more time to make it lined up better with your content. But again, regular HTML. The div for my PDF is going to be empty. And then this is the code that I showed y'all on screen. So that's my real key. Feel free to steal it. I don't care. It only runs on localhost. Excuse me. But I make my view object, pass it the client ID, pass it the div ID, and then I run preview file on there. And if I had a different PDF in here, and I don't, I could just change that and point to something else. Now, all this can be more dynamic. You could have a list of PDFs, for example, where a user clicks to load dogs.pdf versus cats.pdf. You don't have to have it hard coded like this, but it certainly works that way as well. And I'll just go back here. And yeah, that is it. And pretty much looks the exact same as I had it in the slide deck. Fairly simple. And we are a small group, so I can pause. Any questions so far on this?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I work on an education. I work for the U of A on an educational online learning site. And so there's, various developers and stuff. So if I wanted to HTML and whatever, it seems like I could use my Adobe account key and anyone else can see that for my account. So I guess my question would be, when you make edits to the PDF online and save it, can anyone who visits that web page see those edits and make comments also? Or is it only like, I guess, to my login on the website?
So when I edit that PDF, it's my copy. It's not editing the original at all.
Okay.
Now, we support the ability for you to hook into the save events. So let me go back here. Let me do something, blah, 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 blah. So when I click save on there, if I write code, I could notice that, I could bypass that, I could save it to your server. So if you wanted to let people collaborate and work on a PDF, you could do that. That gets more complex because then what if two people edit at the same time?
Right.
But basically, we allow you to do that. We give you the hooks to do that. The management of that would be up to you. But by default, what I just did is living just in my client side version of the PDF. Now I'm working on my local machine, but you understand, this would be my copy. When I save, it's saving away from this. So yeah,
to your downloads. It saves away to your downloads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right. So that was just the basic. Let's start actually modifying things here, making it a bit more personal based on whatever our needs may be. We have 4 types of views for the PDF embed. So one is called sized container, and it's basically a PDF view of 1 page at a time. The other one is full window, and that's what you just saw. And it's a horrible name. It basically just means streaming pages one after another. If that's the default, it's really like full div or full block or full part of your page. We also have inline, which takes a PDF and takes every page and just lays it one after the other. Now, in that case, if you have your div and you specify how tall it should be, we're going to ignore that because we're going to stretch that PDF out as long as it is. Don't do that for a 100-page PDF because you'll have a very, very tall web page. And then lastly, we have a lightbox version, which is like a modal window thing. So the one that you use is based on what makes sense. So a marketing brochure of 1 or 2 pages, size container could be great for that because you want focus on 1 page at a time. Documentation, a book. Typically, I like reading that in a stream, so I just kind of scroll up as I read. Inline could be good for a short PDF, and Lightbox would be good for where you actually want the full browser. The way that's done is with a bit more JavaScript. All I did was add a little bit more code where I specify what the embed mode is. And I apologize, all the allergies. I'm in the South, so everything is blooming, and it's blooming to kill me. Not to be pretty, not to smell nice, it's blooming to kill me. So If I clear my throat a lot, I apologize. But this is where you specify that particular view. And if we look at an example of that, so again, again, my design here is not optimal. I was trying to make it fit for a presentation. I wouldn't make a PDF this squished, but it works. So again, this is the default. You see it just kind of streams all the pretty cats. There's one more. Is that it? Yep, that's it. Size container, again, is one page at a time. And again, yeah, this is too small. Typically, I'd make it less wide and taller. But you can see, I see one page and I click to go. By the way, the down and up arrows work as well. Inline is going to take that and it's going to stretch it all the way out. And you see it completely ignored the height of my div because I told it to. And then the last one, Lightbox, I'm going to pop out the code pin here real quick. And so I have a regular, very simple web page here, and the PDF's not showing up because it's going to be a modal window. And typically a modal window will show up based on some user input. So in this case, I have a button that says show PDF, and I click it, and it's going to take over the entire screen. And I can go here and I can scroll. And if I hit the escape key or hit that X button, it goes away. So that's kind of one of the first things that you can do with the embed to kind of customize it to make it better fit your content. But we have more. You can show and hide different parts of the UI. For example, if you don't want people to save or print, you could do that. And by the way, if you've been in this industry for more than a day, anything that's on the web can be stolen, period. I could print screen, I could pick my cell phone up and take a picture of it. Yes, but this will at least remove those items from the screen and hopefully make your client kind of happy that we're making it a little bit harder. Again, you could turn off annotations and comments if you want. And then there's more that you could do, and we have docs that go into more detail. As you can imagine, it's just going to be more stuff that you add to your JavaScript, and a lot of it's pretty easy. So for example, I can turn off all the stuff. So no download, no print, and no annotation, no left-hand panel. These all default to true, but in this case, I just turned everything off. And as an example of that, in this, I have done that. I've turned off the annotations. I've turned off the save and the print. Got to have the legal notices there because, you know, we're a big company. I will show that code here, but it's basically what I had on the slide as well. So again, not too much work to add that. And I'm going to show a tool that will allow you to copy and paste all this in a far simpler way. That's that. You have the ability to look at the events that are happening. I kind of talked about this earlier about, you know, the use case of our lawyers want you to read the whole PDF and they want you to know when you go page to page. We give you access to all that. So we give you the metadata for a PDF. So if you want to know how many pages are in the document, we actually give you the ability to change pages on the fly, to do searches as well. The search thing is pretty interesting because you can build a search engine for your PDFs, right? And I search for cat and I find it in a PDF. But you can actually use the PDF embed to load that PDF, and you could do a forced search for cat, and it will literally load the PDF. It will scroll down the cat, it will highlight it, and it'll say this is like find 1 of 10. And you can automate all that along with your search engine to, you know, not only just show them the PDF that match their search, but show them the actual text in there where their particular match was found. There's also an API for doing annotations. Some of the use cases for that may be you're an educator and every single PDF you have Maybe you want them all to start with a note from the teacher, like on top. So an initial comment or a default comment. We give you an API where you can kind of put that automatically onto the document. I'll be honest, it's a pretty complex API, but it is there if you want that level of working with the document. We also have analytics support. So out of the box, if you have Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics, you can literally just like pass one parameter. Like this is my Adobe Analytics automatically send events to those particular engines. But we also give you hooks into all the events. So if you want to do your own tracking, if you have your own analytics software of some sort, because we give you all those hooks, you can listen for those events and then do whatever you want to with them. You can send them to a backend server for storage. And that obviously is the event support. And I'll say event support is not just for analytics. It may be for making the experience more powerful. And I have kind of a dumb demo, but I like it. I built it today, where I have a PDF. And what if I could say, you know, when you select text, I notice it. And in this case, I noticed the selection event. I got the selected text. And I could do things here like if I want to save portions of a PDF, I could have a button here that says, hey, save the selection for reuse later. Say or tweet it, for example. A lot of blog posts. In fact, I think Medium lets you select text and then do a tweet from that. So you could build a similar type experience here. I'll show that code. It's definitely getting a little bit more gnarly, where I do things like I get the APIs from the embed. I listen for a selection event. When the selection event fires, I get the selected content. And by the way, I'll say that particular event will notice if you select images as well. My code just kind of assumes text. But that is how, using the hooks that we provide, that's how I was able to build that demo. I had a really cool demo once where you would select text and it would translate it to Spanish. And it worked fairly well, but it was some random person's free translation API, and that lasted a hot minute before it shut down. But if you paid for a translation API that was stable, you absolutely, like if you're doing an ESL class and you need to provide translations, even though machine translations are perfect, better than nothing. If your educational documentation is in English and you need to help them by providing Mandarin, for example, you can imagine an example where they select this and then they see Mandarin, and it's a bit easier for them to work with the content. So we have a very cool tool, the online Sandbox. And what this does is basically shows everything I showed today. So it shows the 4 different types of embed modes. It allows you to see quickly, like, hey, I want to turn off the page controls. And you can see that goes away. I want to turn off the left-hand pane, annotation tools. And you know what? This is what I like. So I'll click generate code, and I could literally copy and paste that. Now I would have to change the client ID, but I can literally just copy and paste that. And you could actually upload your own document. So if you are the technical person, but you have to convince your non-technical coworker, you can send them here. Like they could play with this and they could see, and they could upload your own PDFs and see how it's going to look. If I go back, see, I don't like that this takes the entire page. I feel like this is a much better demo, but they could see it in context of a web page and again, see the code. This is all online. In the chat, I'll do it right now because I will forget.
Thank you.
And by the way, y'all can have the slide deck if you need it. It's all in my GitHub repo, but that's it right there. Um,
And the code ID, that's the API ID, or content ID. What,
This-
the ID that you were talking about?
yeah, so the client ID, that will be
Client.
unique to you when you log in and get credentials.
Okay, the
Now-
API ID.
Yep. Now, in case you're wondering, like, oh, people can view source, they can steal it. Well, again, they're host dependent. So if I steal yourdomain.com, if I steal that key, I can't use it on raymondcamden.com. So it's safe. What else? So just some resources to think of. We have docs. I'm going to share my GitHub repo right now. No document services, Prezo. So if you want, and but I could also save a PDF version of this presentation later, but my slide deck is up here. So we obviously have docs for all this. If you forget where it is, you could probably just Google for PDF Embed API, and our marketing pages lead you to docs and lead you to gain credentials and stuff like that. So we have docs, we have a support forum. This is all linked from the main site. We're on Stack Overflow as well, although a very small, minimal presence, of which we have more questions there, but we have a tag there at least. And we do have a blog where we talk about PDF Embed API. And then those other APIs I was mentioning earlier with slicing and dicing PDFs. We also have one that will extract PDF content. So if you're in education and you have a lot of documents that are in PDF and you need data access to them, we have APIs that can go into your PDFs and suck all that stuff out. And we also host a nicely named monthly video thing. It was paper cuts, but I think legal thought that was too violent. It's actually paper clips now, and I forgot to update the slides. I'm a big fan of legal, love legal. It's actually paper clips, and it's our once a month thing where we talk about various stuff. Very exciting. You can definitely subscribe to it. And that's it. Any questions? Anything that you want to see?
I have a question. So like I said, I work with a university website, and if I were to, and so say I put a PDF on the website and used my API, and if I were to leave the company and my Adobe account were shut down, will that PDF still be active?
The embed API will stop working. We don't touch your PDFs at all.
I'm sorry, not the PDF, the functionality of the API. It'll stop working.
If you leave the company, it would not automatically go away. Like you would need to go into the console and find the project and delete it.
Okay.
And normally, like if I left foo.com, I would just leave it. I wouldn't care. But if my name was on and I was worried, then yeah. In that case,
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking of the Adobe account will no longer exist. That API will still be good on that page as long as nothing touches it.
right. So if you have a company like I have, I'm Jedi Master at Adobe.com. Shocked that no one had that. If I leave Adobe, if I don't go into the dev console, that key will just stay there.
Okay.
I mean, not forever, but it will stay there.
Okay.
If I wanted to do the right thing, because we always do the right thing, before I left the company, I would say, hey, we're using this. It's my account. Coworker who gets to stay after I leave, you need to sign up. And it's a 5-minute process. Get the key, and then you copy and paste it, and you're good to go.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I don't know. I'm trying to think how I could use this with, you know, like white papers and get analytics at work for the marketing department, but I'm thinking too hard.
Well, I mean, so we support that. Like I think one probably common use case would be how many people read the whole thing. Now, we can't tell what your eyeballs are doing, but we can tell when you view a page. So if you have a 10-page document and you read 2 and stop, and you track that, you can see like no one is reading our 10-page documents. They're all dying off like 1 or 2 pages in. That's useful analytics that you can bring back.
Yeah.
And, you know, y'all write too dang much. You cut that crap out. You know, go back and write less or summarize a bit more. You could do things like how long they spent on a page. You can get as creepy as you want, you know, and
Ooh, okay.
see
Oh
where people
gosh, my
are.
coworkers would love that.
Yeah. Again, we provide the hooks. If you have Adobe Analytics, which is typically pretty big enterprise type stuff, I have no idea what it costs, more than I can afford. But if you have Google Analytics, this morning, actually, we released support for that. And you put in your suite ID or view ID, whatever it is on Google Analytics, you just give that key. And then we do most of the work to just register those events and send them to Google Analytics.
Okay, that's awesome. I could really see us using that at work.
Mhm. You can also, I'm just throwing some ideas out here until I hear a question. You can definitely mix this with other frameworks. So I've done PDF Embed with Alpine.js, with Vue.js, with React. All of my demos had one PDF, but again, you can have like a list of 10 PDFs on the left side. And as they click, the main view changes to load a new PDF. So you can have like an experience where they stay in one place and they can browse multiple documents at one time. Because we have those events of knowing what page you're on, you can do things like if you're embedding a large book, you could remember where they were. You can use local storage on the browser, and every time they view a page, just store they read page 9 last. And when they come back into the website and they view that PDF, you can shift them to page 9 automatically. So they start off where they left last time.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's like so if you're on a web page, that's like a sidebar with thumbnails of the different PDFs. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I'm going to spitball this real quick. This will not work. Let me just make a new file. That's 4.html. That's a good demo to have in general. So I'll do it maybe kind of ugly now. But this is my regular HTML, and I can have, this is not going to work now for now. That's dogs. So I could have regular links, and I would click to view cats and would click to view dogs. I would need a bit more JavaScript, but we're talking just a couple lines of JavaScript. I will probably do this tomorrow morning. It'll be in the repo at that time. But in this case, I would use a little bit of JavaScript to handle these click events and change the URL dynamically.
Wait, so and the URL, you don't add multiple URLs, it changes it as you.
So you know how you can make it so that when someone clicks on something on a web page, it doesn't navigate away, it does something else. It opens a window or.
Yeah, target blank.
So imagine that, and it's changing this div, it's changing the URL of the PDF.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these are links, like it would show links in the sidebar, not like thumbnail, PDF thumbnail.
Yeah, but you could also have an image pointing to a thumbnail.
Oh yeah, and then link the image.
Have a click event. So one of the demos I've built is one of our APIs, and again, this is not the free stuff, but we could take your PDF, we could generate images from it. So you can make a thumbnail by taking page 1 and shrinking it. And once you have those thumbnails, you can build a UI of here's the thumbnails for the PDFs, click on it, and I use PDF Embed API to render that document on your screen for you.
Cool. That should be part of the Adobe demo page.
So on the demo, technically it is, because I can open a file here, and where are my PDFs? I know I got some PDFs. And you're seeing all my personal documents now.
We're not looking.
So the web page didn't navigate away, but it changed the PDF. So I'm not really, navigating, but it did work via open file.
Okay.
And by the way, notice this is a almost 100-page PDF, and it's rendering very, very fast. Any other questions? If
My
not,
only question, which I think you already covered at the beginning, is if we have questions, we can reach out to you. Yeah, cool.
yes, you can see my lovely website, and yes, I bought a skin for my blog. I did not design this, but I have a contact form. You could do that. On Twitter, my DMs are open. I will warn you, I tweet about more than tech because I'm a human and I have opinions, but you could ignore my opinions if you want and go straight to my DMs and ask me. But yeah, either way, and I love this stuff. I that's why I joined the company. So you will not be bugging me to ask a question about this. And Christina, I will make this demo real. I'll make a dog PDF and I'll have that up tomorrow sometime.
Great, because dogs rule.
I have both, so I like both.
I'm sorry, back to the interface of that, you can, where you said you can remove controls, that can you remove control, I'm sorry, my words are not coming through, of expanding, like, is that part of the ones that, so you don't make it full page? Like on the demo site, it had all the, Adobe controls.
So you can,
Like the plus and minus, can you remove that? And then the expand windows,
yeah, so
page
that's,
controls.
yeah, so the page controls are gone.
Oh, but then you lose the navigational controls too.
Yeah, but you could still, like, I'm using my mouse wheel here.
Yeah.
I can click in, well, no, I can't. I can
I
mouse.
like, I'm sorry. I like the one that it was like a slideshow going
Yes.
to the side.
That one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And if you want to, you can get rid of the controls there too.
but so if you wanted to keep those controls, but not make it to where you can expand the window, could you do that?
So you can't get rid of the page controls. I don't believe you can get rid. Oh, hold on.
Full screen mode. Awesome.
There you go. Never say never. And then there's the code. Show full screen false. So you change the embed mode because this is not the default, and you disable the full screen control.
Awesome.
Anybody? I'll stay here as long as you ask questions, but when you're done, I have some Star Trek to watch.
I wouldn't have
Do you want
guessed.
me to stop the recording, or does anyone
y'all
have
are
anything? Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording then.